Hello. Today I want to introduce some breathing techniques. When we breathe well, we exhale 70% of bodily toxins. Many of us may think of needing to sweat in order to get rid of toxins from our system, but most of them actually go out through the breath. A lot of gases are produced as a result of many metabolic activities, including digestion. They enter the blood and they need to get exhaled. And what ends up happening with us is that we get tense. We sit a lot at the computer, we're hunched over, we're stressed out, and we're not breathing well. We're using secondary breathing muscles to breathe. And when we do that, it actually creates a catch-22 because it creates more muscle fatigue, so you feel more tired. And it also limits the activity of stimulating the vagus nerve. The diaphragm is the primary muscle of breathing in the body. And when we're breathing well, the diaphragm is massaging the vagus nerve. And when the vagus nerve is stimulated by the diaphragm, it sends a message to the brain that we're safe. And that message in the brain sends a message to the gut and tells it we're safe. And it's on this constant loop. And then the gut calms down and it tells the brain we're safe. And then the vagus nerve is telling the brain we're safe. And everything is blissful, or at least more calm. So I want to show you two techniques today that help to stimulate the massaging of the vagus nerve by activating the diaphragm as the primary muscle of breathing. The first technique is called Bhastrika, and it means bellows breath. The second technique is called Kapalabhati, and it means skull shining breath. So Kapalabhati, skull shining breath, is really great for clearing out the sinuses. And Bhastrika, or bellows breath, is wonderful for activating the diaphragm and for just helping one feel more clear. Both of them together will help you feel more clear. So if you're somebody who has a series of practices in the morning, what I recommend is if you're doing a yoga practice, like an asana practice, you do that first. Then you do your pranayama practice, which is these breathing techniques. Then you do meditation. Then you do the marma therapy. If you have time to do all that, that's lovely. The other reason I wanted to offer these techniques today that are Ayurvedic techniques, yogic techniques, is to enable you to have something that you can do if you can't exercise. So I had somebody in this week who mentioned to me that due to a pain condition they're suffering with, they cannot exercise right now, but they still need to get their energy moving. And there have been studies that have shown that Bhastrika pranayama, or the bellows breath, it actually has a more positive effect on the cardiovascular system than running, which is absolutely amazing, and in the respiratory system. So what we want to do is to get things flowing whether we can exercise like we normally do or not. When the diaphragm is moving, it's a main pumper of lymph in the body. So really it's important to do things on a regular basis that keep all those little things moving in the body, and it also will help us to feel better. So here's Bhastrika. Basically what you do is you breathe in and out forcibly, and we do 10 of these breaths. So it's in and out through the nose, and you push all the air out. So if you heard that, I made like a wheezing sound at the bottom of my exhale. One of the Ayurvedic teachers I've studied with frequently talks about breathing out completely fully till you can hear that exhalation as a wheeze, because you're trying to get all that air in the deep part of the lungs. The deepest part of the lungs is the one that's most greatly fed with blood vessels. So the greatest gas exchange is happening there, and if you're breathing shallowly most of the time, you're not getting the benefit you would if you were breathing more deeply and the diaphragm was moving and all that air was getting optimally exchanged with the outside world. So Bhastrika, again, looks like this. And this movement that you see my body doing is secondary. I'm not trying to do that. It's happening as a result of how my body needs to move in order to get that air in and then out. So you do that 10 times, and then you sit and you just relax. You just let your breathing return to normal in between doing those 10 breaths and doing the next breaths that we're going to do called Kapalabhati. So just sitting for a moment. And what is normal? Well, it's whatever feels comfortable and most natural to you at that time. We talked about this already in the last videos. Wherever you feel like you can comfortably take a breath in, that's what you should do. Now the next one can be tricky. So if it's like you have to get your brain and your body to connect in order to do the next one. And to connect in a way that you feel like you have conscious control over your abdominal muscles. And if it feels too tricky to do it, just stick with the Bhastrika for now. But what you want to do with Kapalabhati is you're going to breathe in through your nose, and then you're going to retain that breath, and you're going to pump your belly so that you're pushing the air out. So one Kapalabhati breath looks like this. So that's different than the bellows breath. Bellows breath is forcefully in, forcefully out. And it's a longer exhale. This one is an inhale, and then it's like you're holding your breath, and as you hold your breath, you pump your belly and send it out through the nose. So with Kapalabhati, you can do that. You can just practice one breath at a time. It's like a short little breath, and then you puff it out through your nose. And then if you're comfortable with that, you can go a little further, and that's where you breathe in fully, and it's like you're holding your breath, and instead of just doing one little pump and then taking another breath, you do many pumps to get all the air out. So it goes like this. And then you take a couple of deep breaths. So we have the Bhastrika, the bellows breath, which is a forceful inhalation and a forceful exhalation. And then we have the Kapalabhati, or skull shining breath, which clears out the sinuses. You could hear the air going out, like my sinuses are a little more constricted today. You could hear that air going out. You're using that to stimulate your diaphragm more and get the that air in the bottom of the lungs out, just like you do with bellows breath. These are different techniques that do slightly different things, but overall what they're doing is they're exercising your lungs and your diaphragm. They're not that your lungs necessarily need to be exercised, but the diaphragm does. So they may over time be helping with lung capacity, but it's through the use of the diaphragm and the movement away from secondary breathing muscles around the neck and the upper back and the chest, and into using the diaphragm as the primary muscle of breathing. And then once you sit with it and you're calm with it, you're able to relax, and you can really feel the air coming in and out in a relaxed way. One more thing I want to say about breathing before I end this video today is that we talk about shallow breathing, but after you do these two exercises and you go into whatever your at-rest breathing pattern is, you're going to find that it actually feels a little shallow or feels a little thin because you're just sitting, you're not doing anything. You're not running a marathon. You don't need to be taking big gulping breaths. So instead of thinking about things as we usually call them shallow, think about it as quick breaths, because oftentimes when we're shallow breathing, we're breathing more quickly. The Kapalabhati breathing is quick, but it's quick exhalations only. The bellows breath is not quick. And your Your regular breathing pattern is not quick if you're at rest and your vagus nerve is stimulated and you're calm. So think about not only deepening the breath with your regular breathing pattern when you're paying attention to your breath or going into a meditative practice, also think about slowing it down. So I hope this helps today, and I wish you a really beautiful rest of your day and a peaceful day. Namaste.